It all started about 12 years ago, probably around 1998. I got a call from my manager who said that somebody canceled in Mexico City to play a very difficult violin concerto by American composer William Schumann, not to be confused with Robert Schumann, which is very melodic. William Schumann is a great American composer, maybe somewhat underrated, yet he was a fantastic composer with a lot of great symphonic music and a lot of songs. And this violin concerto was extremely complicated score that I had to learn in 4 weeks. And I was still a student at the Juilliard School in New York. And this was an incredible challenge for me. You know, I went to the library, you know, I just briefly looked at the piece and I said that, okay, I will do it. And sure enough, in 4 weeks, I really learned it, and I came to Mexico, and this was with actually Mexico City Philharmonic, the orchestra I'm playing with today. It's almost like a 10-year anniversary for me. And this was with Jorge Mestre, who is a wonderful friend and a great conductor. And you know, we performed the William Schumann concerto, and I just remember that at the second performance of this concerto, my E string broke, and I had to borrow concertmeister violin, and then my bow also broke, and I had to borrow someone else's bow. So I finished the second performance with a different violin and a different bow. And I think the news got around in Mexico, so that there's this young violinist that, you know, learned a very difficult concerto in such a short time, and that you know, he finished the concert on someone else's violin and a different bow, and somehow I started to get a lot of invitation from Mexican orchestras, different orchestras everywhere. It was Orchestra of UNAM, Orchestra Mineria, Jalapa, Veracruz, and Aguascalientes, and you know, I just started travel all over Mexico. I'm probably forgetting some places I performed. There were so many, and this is how it started, you know, and it never stopped. In fact, the amount of times that I traveled to Mexico has increased to like 5 times a year, because now I'm also the music director of the chamber music series at the FMX Festival de Mexico City, and I perform with the Mineria Orchestra every year in the summer, which I love, and there are just constant engagements and inquiries, and you know, I love coming here, so this is great. For me, these two are very similar. I love performing with the orchestra. This is absolutely great because there's fantastic repertoire for violin and orchestra. I consider violin concertos very similar to chamber music, because one of the main things in chamber music is knowing each other's part and listening to your partner. So when I prepare a concerto, I'm very aware that it's important to go through a score of a concerto that I'm performing to know what other instruments have important parts. Because all the violin concertos, just like chamber music, is a great dialogue. Now, the difference between chamber music and playing with an orchestra is simply that chamber music is just much more intimate, and you have equal rights. You know, whenever, you know, if I come to the orchestra as a soloist, you know, there's always more like, you know, the conductor and the orchestra always ask, what would you like to do? How would you like the tempo? You know, like, am I following okay? How is the balance? With chamber music, it's quite the opposite. It's much more of you know, listening to each other, and everybody have a say, and we discuss tempo. So it's much more maybe of a collaborative process, you know. And with chamber music, of course, I mean, there's so much great repertoire written, and this is the kind of repertoire that I try to bring to the festival in May. Well, with young musicians, I feel, first of all, a lot of responsibility, and second of all is that the commitment is through the education. So whenever I go performing anywhere, you know, it doesn't matter what kind of concert it is, whether it's chamber music, recital, or orchestra, I always try to give a masterclass or do an outreach program in a college or a school, so I can promote my craft and talk about classical music. You know, you know, sadly, classical music is not something that the younger generation tends to listen to these days. So my philosophy behind it is that these people have not been exposed to classical music in most cases. And if you present classical music in a very sort of new, more acceptable way, where you talk about it out of passion rather than anything else. And I think, you know, if you can communicate this passion and transfer your love for classical music, then I've noticed that a lot of people pick up on that. You know, in fact, you know, it's not just going to schools or talking to young people. It's everywhere I go, you know. Well, you know, I spend a great deal of time at the airports. I talk to people. I talk to people while I'm waiting for the plane. I talk to people while I'm flying, on a train, automobile, you know, stores, streets, anywhere I go. You know, I talk to people, and you know, and sometimes that means converting one person at a time, because it's always, you know, such a great fascination. Really, you're a classical violinist? That's unbelievable! Oh my God! And you know, and what's very, very interesting, you know, because I walk with a violin case all the time. Nobody comes up to me and says, "Oh my God, you're a violinist! That's incredible! You know, that's a violin case. Wow!" Never, never like this. But if I am somewhere without the violin, and I say that I'm a classical violinist, then everybody says, "Oh my God, that's unbelievable!" So how does it work? You know, people don't really know, like, how does it work? Like, what is the life of a classical violinist? So you know, a great deal goes into elaboration of what I do, and I'm happy to talk about it, like I am now. Well, this year is going to be our 4th year of the festival, and this project started very small, as most projects start. It started from my great relationship with Mineria, Academia de Mineria and Mineria Orchestra. We've been discussing the idea of Chamber Music Festival because this is something that I've always wanted to run and to have. And you know, it's a little bit of a selfish idea, because what I've been doing is inviting my friends, but you know, these friends are some of the world-renowned musicians that are traveling, performing everywhere. And this year we have some fantastic artists and great programs, and I can't wait for May. So the festival had been extremely well received. And as I mentioned, it started from Mineria, and then it moved now to the Festival de Mexico City. Now it became part of the festival, in a way, a festival within a festival, and it takes place in such a beautiful Amphitheatro Simón Bolívar, you know, with the work of Diego Rivera. I mean, it's you can't wish for better acoustic venue. It's perfect for chamber music, acoustically and aesthetically.
Did you try that acoustic? Is it all right?
In the Simón Bolívar?
Yes.
Many times, of course.
Okay.
Yes. I performed there. You know, we did many events there, and film screening and instrument exhibitions. I mean, you name it. Yeah, we've tried it there, and you know, the other musicians love performing in that venue. one of the important elements of the chamber music series is always promoting Mexican music. So what we have done is, of course, program works by Ponce, Revueltas, Chavez, and you know, hopefully we're also going to try to include some contemporary Mexican composers, younger composers, you know, up and coming rising stars. So we're going to be looking for those candidates probably for next year. But this year the content is very exciting. You know, some of the great classics mixed with Mexican composers. You know, works by Mendelssohn and Beethoven. We're starting from a beautiful French program with works by Debussy and Fauré and Chausson. And the next program is all Russian music with Arensky, Prokofiev, and Shostakovich. So basically the festival is going to give an enormous range of some of the greatest chamber music repertoire. Well, you know, an instrument for me is like a person. You know, each instrument has a different voice, different sound, different look. And my current instrument is a 1708 Antonio Stradivari, which is nicknamed Ruby. The reason it's called Ruby is because of its red varnish. It has very red tint to it. So I've always thought that, you know, maybe this is the original red violin. You know, everyone is familiar with the story of red violin, but of course the story is fictional. There is no such thing. It was a made-up story. But you know, if you want to talk about red violin, my violin is certainly one of the redder ones. And I'm completely in love with this instrument. It's, I mean, it's out of the world. You know, I call instruments time machines. You know, because it's really holding this incredible history in your hands. Like, imagine if you had a painting of Leonardo da Vinci hanging on your wall. This is what I have in my hands every day. And sometimes, you know, I open the violin case and I'm thinking, wow, I mean, really? I mean, 1708, this was built in 1708, and I'm one of the few lucky people. I mean, there are only maybe 500 Stradivari instruments in existence right now. He made about 1,000, but because of the, you know, natural disasters and thefts and wars and, you know, God knows what, you know, only 500 remained. And, you know, there are many more violinists than just 500 violins. So I'm the, you know, one of the few lucky ones to be able to play on this instrument every day. And of course, you know, yeah, you form a personal relationship, and you know, it may sound strange to you, but a lot of musicians talk to the instruments. Well, you know, it has a very low voice, you know, like a very deep baritone, sometimes even bass. People have commented that the lower strings of this instrument sound a little bit like cello, you know, and then you go into upper strings and it sounds a lot like soprano. You know, a beautiful soprano, you know, very tender, you know, this incredible overtones that you can hear when you play on such a magnificent instrument. And it is very important for me. I'm actually making a very particular reference to voice. You know, I'm saying baritone, I'm saying sopranos. And the reason being is because most of the composers, when they wrote their music, they thought of a violin as a voice, you know, rather than just violin. And not to mention the fact that they were all great opera lovers and writers. You know, if you take Mozart, Beethoven, there's so many more great operatic composers that wrote for violin, or songs, just song cycles, like Brahms song cycles. You know, it's too bad Wagner doesn't have a violin concerto. That would be great. Mahler could have had a violin concerto. You know, if you take Korngold, that's later Romantic school. In any case, you know, when I see these composers writing, you know, and I just recorded Beethoven romances for violin, and we recorded with Mineria Orchestra. It's so vocal. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's two voices talking to each other all the time. You know, the only thing it's missing is a libretto. Bruch, I forgot to mention. Mendelssohn. You know, all these composers, they love writing for voice. You know, so when I play any piece, any violin piece, I'm always aware that it has to be almost like a human voice, like something that's talking. You know. Anyway, I can go for a very long time about this. You know, so I stop. Well, you know, recordings are very interesting to make. It's a whole different mindset. You know, because in a live performance, you just have one take, and it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. You know, with recording, it's a whole different story. You have to be able to produce a similar emotion every time you have to do a different take. You know, kind of like an actor, where you have to constantly be in the moment, you know, for a different take for the film, you know. So, and it's, you know, it's very difficult to sustain the same mood. And after a while, after repeating the same passage over and over and over, you know, it becomes more and more difficult, you know. So like, if you haven't gotten it after 4 or 5 takes, there's a chance that you're not even going to get it. So it's better to just, you know, put it away and come back at some point, you know. So, you know, it's very, very psychological, but also you have the opportunity to change something that you didn't like. You know, in a live performance, you can't do it. You know, it's just one take, as I said. But with recording, you're able to adjust things, you know, and of course right now the technology is so high and the microphones are so sensitive that, you know, anything goes into the microphone. Little noise, you know, microphone picks up. So sometimes the takes don't work because of an outside factor, because a chair squeaked, or because I was breathing too hard, or because somebody hit a music stand with a bow, you know. And that requires, again, incredible stamina to repeat, and repeat. So what I try to do, you know, with a lot of experience now, is to have longer takes, like, you know, as many longer takes as possible, and try to have a feel of a live performance. So with our last recordings that we did with Mineria, you know, we had 3 live performances and then a couple of hours of recording session. And we utilized both live performances and recording session. So I think I'm very excited about this recording, and it's my first collaboration with a wonderful Belgian label called Avanti Classic. You know, we love the process. You know, it was exhausting. It was crazily exhausting because also, in addition to recording, we also did performances that same evening. But, you know, what counts is the end result. You know, like what do you have in the end? And what we have is a great record. Again, you know, we did so well with Korngold. You know, the Korngold recording, you know, received Grammy nominations and all kinds of praise worldwide. And but you know, it's not the awards that's important. You know, what is important is you know, to be able to be proud of your work. You know, and we work so hard. And you know, hard work usually pays off, not always, but usually. You know, I recorded a lot of contemporary music in my earlier days. I've recorded a lot of American music. So now, you know, Mendelssohn and Bruch Concerto is really my first record of major standard repertoire. So for me, right now, it's important to go through all the major violin concertos, so I'd like to, you know, move on. I mean, I have plans actually to record Tchaikovsky and Sibelius and all the wonderful violin concertos that have been written and recorded many, many times, you know. And the thing is that I'm always asked Why do we need another Mendelssohn? Why do we need another Tchaikovsky? We already have 100 records of great performers. Well, do we need to justify great music? No, I don't think we do. I don't think we do. You know, if you look at the concert season of any orchestra in the world, you will see Mendelssohn, Bruch, Brahms, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, always programmed. Nobody ever questions, why is this programmed? So why do we have to ask, why do we need another recording of Mendelssohn and Bruch? We do. I have, you know, I just, it's a personal thing. You know, I had a childhood dream that I wanted to record these concertos always, and now I have, you know. So this is always a milestone, and you pass one milestone and you go to the next one and the next one. You know, no, I'm not really thinking of acting career. This was sort of an off-the-wall project for me, and you know, one of the reasons I did it is because my character, if you can say that, was also a Russian violinist that came from New York to study at the Juilliard School. So essentially the story, it was not inspired by me, but it mirrored my life in many, many ways. And that's why I was, you know, inspired, and, you know, shockingly, I did get the part. You know, I was just one of the people auditioning. You know, I went through the whole series of castings, and you know, there were some, you know, legendary producers and director, and you know, they offered the part. You know, and I like adventurous projects. What can I say? You know, I like the feeling of challenge and excitement and adventure. You know, so I accepted, and I certainly don't regret. You know, we shot this movie in 2010 for 5 weeks, you know, and I enjoyed being on a set. I enjoyed being on a set. While this project was in pre-production, I took a lot of acting classes with a wonderful director and producer and acting coach, Sandra Lee, and I learned a lot. You know, I did many plays, you know, because I was preparing. You know, I wanted to be an educated actor, because I didn't want to take acting for granted. A lot of people do. A lot of people feel that, you know, it is easy to show up in front of the camera, say a few lines, and you get an Oscar nomination. And I was never under that impression. So I wanted to study the craft, and I certainly don't regret that I did, because when I showed up on a set, I knew something. You know, I already knew something. So I certainly don't call myself an actor, but I call myself a musician who had done some acting. You know, where it's going to lead, I don't know. Right now, the film is going through a whole series of festivals, film festivals, and I have attended several premieres. One of them had a red carpet, and it was completely surreal. I mean, completely surreal and unexpected, and you have these cameras, and everybody talk to you as if you're an actor. And you know, for me, just being on a red carpet was more of being an actor than being a film actor. You understand? And of course, I mean, I have to admit, you know, looking at myself on a big screen was the scariest experience ever. You know, because suddenly I've noticed things about myself that I never knew. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I talk funny, I look funny, I run funny, I can't look at myself. Oh my God, what a terrible shot. I can't believe they used this angle. Oh my God, you know, this wasn't, you know, and it was just, you know, constant paranoia. You know, now, you know, I've been now to 4 premieres, and now I just gave up, you know. It's like, I know I have to be there, I have to deal with that, so I'm just, you know, relaxed. I'm like, it's just supposed to be this way, you know. So, but, you know, yeah, I enjoyed it. And, you know, if there is another fascinating project that comes my way, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't accept it, you know. I did love the experience, you know, and if this, you know, if you love something, you know, you go for it. Absolutely. You know, a music performance has a great theatrical element, you know. Basically, the point from backstage to the middle of the stage is, you know, people don't know if you're going to play or not. So at that point, you're essentially an actor. You know, by the time you reach the middle of the stage and give all the bows and all the smiles, you know, put the violin up, tune your bow, you know, check the violin. You know, this certainly has a great, great theatrical element. But then you better play well. You know, that's when theatrics are not gonna work so well. You know, you have to be able, you know, to produce, you know, something cohesive on the violin. So you know, preparation for a music concert is insane. You know, the work that goes into perfecting, you know, each note and interpretation of familiar works is enormous and exhausting. Well, you know, we are already doing a lot about promoting Mexican music and Mexican culture. Just the fact that we've been collaborating so much with Mexico. Well, I was collaborating, but I also brought so many friends. And a lot of these friends are not familiar with Mexican music or Mexican culture. And so far, all these incredible international artists that have visited Mexico fell in love with the country and said that we want to come back. We had no idea. You know, they walk downtown and they see the beautiful cathedrals. They see the incredible architecture. They see the incredible museums, you know, the great cultural attractions all over the place, you know. And Mexico, I mean, it just has so much personality, so much charisma. It's so colorful, you know. It's an incredible, it's a jewel. It's just like world's jewel, you know. So you have people like me that goes around the world and promotes Mexico. You know, and so many times, you know, somebody asks me, what is your favorite place to perform? I'm saying Mexico. Like, really? How come? I said, well, because they have the most incredible halls. They have the most incredible public. They're the most generous and hospitable people that I've ever met. And you're invited to my festival. Thank you, Sergio Vela, for great, great questions. As always, brilliant. And thanks for great lunch also.